Uh,
The
I gotta tell
business
you, yeah,
casual jersey.
it's tough. It was a tough decision to pop the collar out of this bad boy, but
It looks great. You nailed
thank
it.
you, thank you. It's a self-affirmation, Got to tell myself that I'm worthy. So that's where it's at.
You look like a history teacher in freshman year of high school on Jersey Day.
That's what I'm going for, man. It was like I put the jersey on and I was like, "Fuck it, man. I'm leveling this up. I'm
Looks
going
great.
Mr. Rogers on this shit."
I took a Lisa on your heart. I took a Lisa on your heart. Can I Lisa, Lisa Bud? Can I Lisa, Lisa Bud? Can I Lisa, Lisa Bud?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we're on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Going good, man.
Good.
I got new threads all over the city.
I see.
Rocking the yeah, the
Xavier Worthy.
TA version of the Xavier Worthy jersey,
Looks
popping
great.
collars.
Loving it.
Yeah, I should tweed code over this usually, but took it off for the pod. But I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Good. I'm great. I mean, horrendous Packers loss.
Yeah.
So I'm on to next year, which is kind of serendipitous because this is the last episode really of season 4 of RDR. Next week we're getting into season 5 and hitting you with some starting our rookie profiles for the 2025 draft class. So more on that a little later, but today is going to be our last kind of review of the 2024 season. So we're hitting you with two different subjects, and I'm pretty excited. Dipping our toes back into the IDP pool, where we're going to go over the top scorers at each position for the IDP league. So that's defensive line, linebacker, defensive back, and then our RDR special position edge, which is the linebacker D line combo. So we're gonna go hit you with that, and then we're gonna hit you with the 2024 All Rookie Team, and see how they compare. That's gonna be a Daniel project there, showing us how they compare to the previous seasons. So yeah, I'm excited, man. Are you ready to get into it?
Dude, there's no time like the present, man. I think I am ready to get into it, man. Where are we starting at?
Let's start with the IDP. Now, real quick, if you were with us last year when we did this, the IDP, our IDP stuff, our league, which is where we're using
Yeah, all rankings.
all the rankings and all the scores for these guys, is a little higher scoring than standard, quote, standard IDP leagues. Like we give people 6 points for sacks instead of 4.5. You also get a point for an assisted tackle instead of zero point 0.7, and 1 point for QB hits instead of half a point. Just random stuff like that. So our defensive player scores are a little higher than normal. So if these numbers sound a little large to you, if you're experienced in IDP, that is why. But speaking of the edge position that we
Oh,
always like to
beautiful.
do, we're gonna go ahead and start there. So, the top 10 edge position players of 2024, we've got Andrew Van Ginkel with 273 points, TJ Watt at 251, Nick Benito out of nowhere at 241, Jonathan Grenard 231, Harold Landry at 200 total points. Daniil Hunter at 203. Trayvon Walker at 199. Good to see him, former first round pick or first overall pick. Kyle Van Noy, 193. Micah Parsons at 186. And then Will Anderson rounding out the top 10 edge at 179. So a couple just quick notes, and then we're going to get into some specific guys. Uh, Nobody in this on this list had less than 10 and a half sacks, and only one
Oh,
player had 10 and a half. That was Trayvon Walker. Everybody else had at least 11 or more. So obviously for that edge position, you got to get them sacks. If people aren't getting sacks, they're not going to make this list. And then this was our largest carryover from the 2023 top 10 to the 2024. Five of last year's top 10 players made it back. Those were TJ Watt, Daniil Hunter, Michael Parsons, Harold Landry, and Andrew Van Ginkel, though Andrew Van Ginkel has the distinct honor of going from 10th to 1st, which is
Yeah.
pretty impressive for him.
Yeah, that was impressive. As he also had the distinct wardrobe change of going from Miami to Minnesota.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
he capitalized on that move, man. He was yeah, two of these guys are the only two guys in the I mean, I don't know. They're two of these guys are two of the four guys that scored two defensive touchdowns. Good
Yep.
Lord, that is impossible to say. But Van Ginkel scored two defensive touchdowns, and those are
Hmm.
pretty awesome, man.
Hmm.
I remember seeing a lot of those happen. He had like some pick sixes early in the season. Um, it was pretty incredible. He has in the
Pretty
first five
impressive.
weeks,
Yeah.
and he kind of just set the world on fire from there and just
Hmm.
rolled through the entire season, just dropping 30 plus point games
Hmm.
and leaving double digits in the rear view. So that's the way to do it. He had 79 tackles, which is pretty distinct for the edge group. He's
Hmm.
about 15 higher than the next guy. So I like to see that. He was yeah, the number one when you look at so in our league, we talk about edge guys, but there's not an edge starting position, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
We've established that. So these guys could be played as D line or as linebackers. So one thing to consider is that as far as like the D line rankings go, he was a top guy,
Hmm.
you know. And then in the linebacker group, he was number four. So if you got one of these guys, that you can start as the D line, it's pretty incredible. So
Hmm.
that was awesome, man. I don't know. I looked deep at the top five guys. We had TJ Watt, number two. He had six fumbles, man, forced fumbles. That was
Yeah,
pretty
that's
impressive. That
crazy.
kind of gave him the edge on things. Nobody should be very surprised at the name. He's been doing this year in and year out. You mentioned
Hmm.
him as a repeat guy, but he's up there as a top defender and he always will be. Like to see it, but like you're saying, Benito is was a surprise guy, third year guy
Hmm.
in Denver, and I mean he was able to stay relevant by being another dude that had two defensive touchdowns.
Yeah.
Um, that was incredible, and then 14 sacks.
Yep.
I think that was the top guy for the edge group.
Hmm.
And he was like the linebacker 12, DL
Yeah.
defensive line number five. So I don't know, pretty cool. I will say it was impressive to see Grenard and Van Ginkel on this list together, being
Hmm.
teammates in
Hmm.
Minnesota. It just kind of tells you what that defense was doing. And then I don't know, man. I think I called that Harold Landry thing in our preseason
You did.
analysis.
You did. Yeah.
So I was excited. Was there any like surprising guys top 12 for you?
You kind of hit on him. The Benito one was surprising. Honestly, just kind of going forward, Denver as a whole, just the sheer amount of Broncos that shows up on these lists. They were just outstanding on defense this year. But yeah, like you're saying, third year guy, not much. I mean, he had 8 sacks last year, but not much to go off. And then he comes out and has 2 touchdowns, 14 sacks, and kind of makes a name for himself, and establishes himself as like one of the premier pass rushers, which is, awesome for him. And then, like I said, Trayvon Walker finally kind of getting some traction. Um, he was kind of not a bust, but has not lived up to the potential and is definitely a bust for number one overall when you got Aiden
Yeah.
Hutchinson staring down the barrel at you at number two overall in that draft. So it was nice to see him make this list with 199 points, just under 200. I will say it was a bit of a down year in terms of points defensively, at least compared to last year. We didn't change our scoring, not that I am aware of, but like Andrew Van Ginkel was number one overall for edge players with 273, and he would have been fifth last year,
Oh wow.
which is pretty crazy. And like a lot of these guys, like you're looking at everyone from seven down would have not even been in the top 10 if they
Yikes,
were
man.
there last year. So there was a drop off of points, and that actually is a trend that you see at every position, except linebacker, really, which I actually still think no, linebacker still the number one overall guy at linebacker scored more. We'll get into that than last year's, but then as a whole, the linebacker scored a little less. So pretty crazy. Not sure if that's a trend. Maybe 2023 was a crazy defensive year, so that'll be interesting to look at going forward. You got anything else about these edge guys?
I do have a surprise guy.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Who's number 6, I think, if I'm counting right. Daniil Hunter.
Yeah.
So this is not a good surprise, guys. This is a bad surprise for me. Defensive line rank of number 12. But if you he had 12 sacks, but if you
Hmm.
look at like the game log, he had 9 single digit active games. Where like
Hmm.
most of them were 5 or less, one or
Damn.
two touchdowns. And I don't know. After looking at the 2023 stats, he only had 4 single digit games. Like he was consistent. Obviously, he changed teams from the Vikings to the
Hmm.
Texans, and then he had some like 3 sack games. But I have to imagine, man, if you're rostering this guy, you've got to be like so frustrated when he drops the 2.1 tackle games and things like that. So just as far as consistency, I was a little surprised to see the highs and lows. But I will say in IDP, like you get burnt a lot on like,
Hmm.
games just didn't, go that way. Even though like the better the player is, the more the offense avoids them, stuff like that. It's kind of funny, but I
Hmm.
was surprised that he couldn't make the transition as seamlessly as I was expecting in Houston.
That's fair. I mean, they were kind of like a duo there, so maybe that took a little heat off of him. But you're right. I would have expected more out of him. I mean, Will Anderson did make the top 10. One
Yeah.
more quick negative surprise. I mean, you
Hey,
mentioned Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard, which is awesome, both being Minnesota Vikings. But Dallas Turner, nowhere to be found. Didn't get a lot of
yeah.
playing time, which is, I guess, is good for the Vikings that you're still getting that level of production out of your linebacker room, but it would be nice to see Dallas Turner on the field
Yeah.
more.
He made it like 1 or 2 solid plays, but he definitely wasn't rotating in
Hmm.
heavily.
Yeah,
So, but it makes sense, I guess, when you look at the
yeah,
the competition level.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. On a team that like if it was working, so why try to fuck
Yeah.
it up, you know? Anyway, let's move on to the defensive line here. So number one, we got Trey Hendrickson. Shouldn't be a surprise, 17 and a half sacks. Which is pretty nuts. Or did he get 18 and a half? I forget. Doesn't matter. Miles Garrett was number two. That shouldn't surprise anyone either. Leonard Williams still kicking around and being awesome. Had a great year. Brian Burns looking good with the Giants. Kind of took the Thibodeau steam away. Then you got Cam Hayward, another oldie but a goodie. Zach Allen, Gregory Russo.
Yeah.
He kind of is finally coming along, which is nice. Somebody I was talking about at the beginning of the year. Zach Zeeler at 192. Nick Bosa also at 192, keeping that consistency. And then Jonathan Cooper at 186 rounds out your top 10. Now, only three of these guys were on the list last year. And super noticeable misses here are Aiden Hutchinson, who obviously got hurt, and then Max Crosby as well. Pretty crazy not to see those guys on the top 10, but Trey Henderson, Garrett Wilson, or sorry, Miles Garrett and Nick Bosa all were on the list last year and made it this year as well.
Nice. Yeah,
And then go ahead.
go. No, you're good.
Oh, I was just going to say this is where we get into how many Broncos are on these lists because we just talked about
Benito.
Benito on the last list, and then we've got Zach Allen and Jonathan Cooper on this list. both Broncos that made it on here. And wait, hang on. Is Zyler also a Bronco? I think that's the crazy part. I forget now.
Miami.
No, he's Miami. Okay, gotcha. So whatever. I was thinking there was more, but yeah, we got Zach Allen and Jonathan Cooper, both Broncos. So that's three Broncos between the two first top 10 ends we're talking about. Just kind of speaks to what they were doing damage wise.
Yeah, no, it's pretty incredible, man. I mean, they I don't know. It's kind of fun to watch these teams that had good defenses. They kind of seem like they are fizzling out a little bit in the playoffs.
Hmm.
But some of the runs they made and some of the records they put up just by limiting what the other teams were doing, like the Broncos
Hmm.
got a backbone, man. They definitely got a backbone to build off of, but
Hmm.
we'll see how it goes. I know you love to see him doing well out there, but I don't know
Yeah.
who's I'm trying to is Van Joseph the DC out there?
Yeah, I think it's Vance Joseph.
Vance Joseph, yeah.
Yeah.
So did not surprised to see success there.
No, not at all. Was surprised kind of to see Gregory Rousseau. This isn't as much of a surprise as it was like a hell yeah, because I've always liked Rousseau as a player when he came out. 8 sacks and 54 tackles got him into the top 10 for D line. Would have also had him in the top edge players had he been up there at 196 points, which is pretty good to see. He would have ranked eighth out of edge players. So, uh, well, I mean, I guess if you just took them one for one, if you took all the defensive linemen and add them into edge, then it probably wouldn't worked out like that. But I'm just saying he scored more than like say Kyle Van Noy, Michael Parsons, and Will Anderson,
Yeah.
which is good to see when you have it's like D line, you really want to fill those up with your edge players, but when you have guys like Henderson, Miles Garrett, Max Crosby that can just really dominate there, that's great to have as well because then you have more flexibility with your edge guys instead of just throwing them in the defensive line. And I'm hoping that Rousseau going forward can be one of those guys.
Hell yeah. I'm with you on that, man. It is sad to not see Max Crosby in the top 10 here.
Hmm.
What a ghost year for the Las Vegas team.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's tough.
but it's still nice. I mean, Trey Hendrickson, you know, been been impressed by what he's done.
Oh yeah.
Hate to see it firsthand sometimes when he's playing your squad, but the repeat of the 17 and a half sacks, that's like unprecedented. The Bengals team was really lacking on the defensive side of the ball. So to
Mm.
see the NFL sack leader just, holding his own and I guess keeping that team from being even more deep in the struggles, it's pretty impressive, man. But
Yeah. No, absolutely.
so, I mean, these D line guys, I mean, you've pretty much got them all summed up. I think, I guess I'm very surprised. I cannot believe how consistent Miles Garrett is.
Oh yeah.
He's like 14 plus sacks in the last 4 years and just isn't ever going to stop.
Nope.
You don't see these guys throwing up these fumble numbers like he does. He's got like a dozen over the past 5 years, which is just insane to
Hmm.
me to think about. But
Absolute monster. Yeah.
I don't know, like how long does it go? I thought the COVID thing slowed him down. He had the Miles Rudolph thing. There was a lot of weird stuff, but he's just like a
Keeps
juggernaut,
going.
man.
Yeah.
Impressive. So D line is always awesome. We need to see some Chris Jones on here. You know what I mean? But
That'd
we'll
be
get there.
that'd be nice. He
He's a
wasn't even on.
postseason top 10. So
Yeah,
we'll
he
see it
definitely
here
is.
this weekend.
All right, well, let's move on to these linebackers real quick. We've got Zaire Franklin at number one at 312, so breaking that 300 mark. That's amazing. Zach Bond, waiver wire pickup of the year at 280. Caden Ellis at 275. Robert Spillane, back-to-back years at 272. We're around 272. Jordan Brooks at 256. Levante David, oldie but a goodie, 253. Frankie Louvu having some fun out there in Washington,
Yeah.
248. TJ Edwards again, 247. Jameen Sherwood, sorry, 245. And then Pratt at 239 rounds out your top linebackers. Carryover there is only three again. You had TJ Edwards, Zaire Franklin, and Robert Spillane were the only guys to show back up.
Interesting. I like it, man. Zaire definitely amazing.
Yeah.
He's been well, I was about to say he's been struggling, but he's been like flirting with the top tackler in the league
Hmm.
for years now, and he got it. You know, he's
Hell
number
yeah.
one with 173, so that gives him a 15 tackle buffer over the number two linebacker. With Splain's got 158. So congratulations, Zaire, man. I don't know what exactly to say about it. I like your Zach Bond waiver wire pickup of the year.
Yeah.
Also throw out Splain was a waiver wire pickup as
Which is
well,
crazy
gentlemen.
after
So
making the top 10 last year. Yeah.
yeah. So you gotta keep your waivers sharp in the IDP world, man. Things change so fast. These guys come
So
out from
fast.
nowhere, man.
100%. Speaking of which, Caden Ellis would have also been a waiver pickup, and I was surprised to see him.
Oh,
29 year
$1.
old. Yeah, 29-year-old Atlanta Falcon coming out of nowhere, having 150 tackles, 5 sacks, and an interception to get him at number three on this list. So, I mean, the obvious guy was Zach Bond with how he was an all-pro this year. He was a surprise, but Caden Ellis was a sneaky surprise on a worse team, and came out
Oh
and could
yeah.
have really helped your roster.
I thought there was a lot of surprises, man. I like that Jordan Brooks.
Mm.
I like that he had two fumble recoveries, but no fumbles created. It was-
Hell yeah.
so you like a guy that's just like sharp, keeping his eye on the play. But dude, I could have gone forever with the surprises. I thought Levante
Mm.
David being 34 and
Yeah,
still putting up.
still crushing it.
But I really like, and this kind of goes to what you were just saying, is the Jermaine Sherwood.
Hmm.
When you got a guy that comes out of nowhere on a team that's not really doing too well on the defensive side of the ball, he went from, having teens his first 2 years in tackle numbers and 35 last year to 154
Jeez.
tackles. So that's like coming out of nowhere, man.
Hmm.
50. He's sorry, 25 years old, so he's got a lot of a lot of tread on the tires. So basically just a guy that I'm going to be keeping a real close watch on. Some of these guys, man, I haven't gone through a full off season like in the know and the IDP. I feel like I'm
Hmm.
going to start flirting with some weird trade offers and be pissing
There you
people
go.
off. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm excited for it. You'll have to share them with me if they're not directed at me. I want to see. All right.
Absolutely.
Finally, getting in the defensive backs, we got Buda Baker at 265, Brian Branch at 252, Nick Cross 243, Kevin Byard at 230, Jesse Bates 219, Alante Taylor at 218, Julian Love 216, and then a tie with Kyle Hamilton and Brandon Jones at 214. And then Mr. Consistent Derwin James there at
Of course.
212 coming back in. Carryover there was 4 out of the 10. We had Jesse Bates, Derwin James, Hamilton, and Julian Love all coming back. What do you got there for us?
Man, really like to see the Buda Baker. He's got 164 tackles.
Hmm.
Like that's insane for a DB. The next highest guy was 19 tackles lower, and he's number two in like the entire league to Zaire as far as. So
Hmm.
you're seeing a DB just all over the field, and no one's surprised. Buda Baker kicks all the ass. So good to see it there. Um, I did want to shout out to Jesse Bates
Hmm.
for some of the good stuff he's been doing. A lot of these guys, they're getting tackles or they're getting picks or whatever. They've got like their niche. He is all over the board. He recorded a sack, 4 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles, as well as a touchdown. And he was over the 100 mark on tackles. So it's good to see just a well-rounded guy. So that was it. But I was really surprised about the Brandon Jones, and I think this is a weird one for me. I'm throwing him in with Van Ginkel. I'm surprised at like the guys that left Miami and had the best year of their career just instantly.
Yeah,
Kind of,
another Denver Bronco.
yeah, yep, there you go. So maybe something good's going on. Obviously, yeah, with Joseph and Flores, you can't really go wrong with those DCs, but I don't know. I'm gonna keep an eye on him. He's only 26. He's got big numbers going up for a DB, and so look out, whoever's rostering him. I'll be sending some shade your way. But
Fair enough. I just a surprise for me was Nick Cross. We talked about him at the beginning of the year for
yeah,
IDP waiver pickups. Only 23 years old, had 145 tackles and 3 interceptions. My only worry with him, and it might speak to why Zaire was able to get so many tackles as well, he had 1,086 defensive snaps, which was like 100 more than the next closest
it's
defensive
enough.
back. So like, if the Colts offense is a little better next year, which I, for the love of God, hope it is with all my Anthony Richardson talk over the last couple of years.
Sure.
But if it's not and they are on the field this much, I mean, Nick Cross looks like a guy you could carry going forward.
Yeah, definitely, man. He's gonna carry you if not the other way around. But man, it's good to get back and reflect on these guys. I'm liking how many of these dudes I'm rostering, so
Hell
keep
yeah.
the faith for the future.
I respect it. Well, all right. You want to move on to the all rookie 2024 team?
Yeah, man. And if you guys don't know by now, um, these guys did well. So we're doing the all rookie 2024 fantasy squad and comparing them to the last 6 years. And we'll go position by position. We'll go full team to full team. But I think we already know what's going on with this squad. I'll just start it out as say, if you were rolling through a super flex all rookie squad in 2024, you'd be starting Jaden Daniels, Bucky
Hmm.
Irving, Tyrone Tracy, Brian Thomas Jr. You'd have Malik Neighbors, obviously Brock Bowers. You'd be flexing Lad McConkey, and Bo Nix would be in your super flex. And got to give Bo Nix a little bit of props, because of the past 6 years, there's been a situation where the super flex did not outperform the actual flex pretty much every year except for 2019. So, um,
2021 as
oh,
well with
2021 as well. So it's good to see some like more than one decent quarterback come out in a single class. It doesn't
hmm
happen all the time. Um, but these guys, so they added up together to get about a season long, it'd be 2,180 points, which is impressive. It is more than 100 points, more than the number two team. It's
Mm.
actually more than 200 points more than the runner-up, which was last year, which was 1,950, give or take. So that's for the Superflex squad. But honestly, across the board, all of these teams are just slaying. The one quarterback was a little bit tighter. They only had about 110 point margin of victory over last year, but still, it's the best class in the last 6 years. And then two quarterback, it's the same number. This is only really applies to if the flex, like a secondary flex, would have outperformed the quarterback. So um, that's basically what you need to know. This class as a whole was a juggernaut and consistently just smoked previous years. If we get into the individual positions, it gets even more brutal. The quarterback room is just, I mean, you know what it is. It's Jaden Daniels, and he's up there with the best quarterback season for a rookie in the past 6 years, without much close competition. Number two was 2020, and that was Justin Herbert. But when you look at the numbers, Daniels had him by 30 points. over the course of a season. We all know that's roughly like 2 points a game, which makes a big difference in the fantasy world. Um, so yeah, I love to see that. I will say the running back class dipped a little bit. You know, if we've done this 6 years, there were only 2 years worse, 3 years better. And when you get into the actual ranking of the position, we will tell you that it wasn't that impressive. There were four guys in the past 6 years that did better than Bucky Irving. And then in the last 6 years, there were 11 guys, 12 guys that did better than Tyrone Tracy. So it was close, but you add the guys together and they're not really, it's not blowing away the competition. I will say though, you got to give Bucky a little bit of credit. He did do better by 2 points than Jahmyr Gibbs
Mm,
rookie year last year, and then he only trailed Bijan Robinson by 2 points, and this is all PPR. So that's pretty impressive. Within 10 points of both Jonathan Taylor and James Robinson. But really, Najee Harris has got the 300-point season that no one's really touching over the past 6 years. And as far as Tyrone Tracy, he put up 182 points, which, it kind of shadows some of these, shady guys. I don't want to say too much crazy stuff about him, but like your Tyler Algiers, your Elijah Mitchells, and your yeah, where's that jersey at? And your Damian Pierce's, and then of course you've got like an injury year for Achan and Josh Jacobs, so he's in the ballpark there. But really, it was a good season. It kind of came out of nowhere for Tracy, but it wasn't really a marquee year for a rookie running back. So um, he's got definitely potential to grow on that.
mm,
But I do think it's shining that spotlight on Bucky Irving is important. As far as the wide receivers go, this was the best sum total of the top two wide receivers um, to in the last 6 years. 2021 was very close, a 7 point margin. And if you look at how these guys compared to some other players, um, they were, let's see, of course, you've got that 2021 year. You got to give the credit where the credit is due on that. That's Jamar Chase definitely making things happen, and Jalen Waddle backing him up. But Brian Thomas Jr. has the third highest rookie year over the last 6 years with 284 points. So about 15 points lower than Puka Nacua and solid 20 points lower than Jamar Chase. So that's pretty damn impressive when you put him in that company. 10 points better than Justin Jefferson, who was right neck and neck with what Malik Neighbors ended up doing.
mhm.
So you see him being the fifth best rookie year in the past 6 years. Pretty amazing. Add Jalen Waddle in there at number seven, no, number six. And then Lad McConkey is just shadowing him. Only 5 point difference between Waddle and McConkey. So you like to see that. McConkey, that puts him at the seventh best rookie year in the last 6 years. But really consistent to have three guys be in the top six. It's a little more spread out. That
Mhm.
2021 year was pretty good. Amon Ross backing him up, but McConkey had a 13-point advantage to Amon Ross. So I don't know. Look out for that. If you're not scared, you should be. But getting into the tight end room, I mean, what do you want what do you want to say? It's Brock Bowers. We were all just completely petrified by the awe strike that Sam Laporta put through last year with his 239-point season. And here comes Brock Bowers just breaking every record ever known to rookie man with hands with a
Mhm.
262-point season. Just asking Kyle Pitts, like, what are you even doing here as I best your rookie season by almost 90 points? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, So I mean, just incredible. It's beautiful. Blows me away. So when you look at all that, I mean, even the quarterbacks, if you want to get into it, I know you do. Let's see where Bo Nix slotted in over the past 6 years. Oh yeah, number three on the list.
Wow.
So just man, 4 points less than Justin Herbert, and he's got Kyler Murray beat by almost 50 points. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. I'll give it to you. So far, and in summary, really, every position was the best in the last 6 years, except for running backs. And Bucky Irving did incredible things, especially considering the draft capital. I don't know who saw it coming. People were calling him Nightcrawler. But all in all, man, it was a fun rookie class. And when you look at it on paper, it definitely was different. It definitely was a little bit historical, and it's definitely got us excited to start scouting rookies for next year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean back to back years we've had the best rookie classes of the last 6 years in terms of
Yep.
fantasy. So if we can continue that trend in 2025, that's going to be awesome and be
It's
pretty crazy.
impossible.
Yeah.
Is it even possible? I don't think can't, right?
We're about to
There's,
find out because
I
next
guess, dude.
week is when we're going to start looking at this 2025 class.
Yeah, man.
So I'm excited.
Heck yeah. So I guess join us next week for Senior Bowl preview profiles, man.
Yeah, so we're gonna do two sets of Senior Bowl previews and profiles. Next week is just gonna be some guys that we like going into the Senior Bowl, and then the week after that, we're gonna profile a couple of guys after we've seen the one-on-one practices. So that's gonna be some fun. But yeah, season 5 of Rough Draft Research
Oh
starting up
shit.
next year or next
Whoa.
week, which is crazy and awesome and also crazy.
We might have a
Uh,
big surprise for the listeners next week.
we might. So stay tuned. Hopefully you're excited for that, and it's gonna blow your mind if you've been with us for a while. So uh, until then, though, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, give her hell.
I took a lease out